This is not breaking news. This is not a scandal. This is not about one person. This is about a system quietly proving that it can fail in plain sight. A system where prices explode, where food becomes unreachable, where people flood the streets not because they are reckless, but because the math stops working. And when that happens, something else follows. The lights go out, not metaphorically. Literally, communication disappears, the outside world vanishes. A country becomes a sealed room. What should be impossible starts to feel routine. Violence without witnesses, power without feedback, threats that don't need to be carried out to be effective. You're told this is far away. You're told this is contained. You're told this is familiar. It isn't, because what's being tested here isn't loyalty or ideology. It's whether modern systems can absorb collapse without anyone stopping it. Stay with me. Because once you see the structure, you can't unsee where this is heading. And the next piece matters more than the first. What actually controls this moment isn't a leader. It isn't a speech. It isn't even force. At least not at first. It's leverage. Economic pressure that compounds quietly. Inflation that doesn't shock once, but erodes daily. Systems designed to stretch people thin until resistance becomes inevitable. And when resistance appears, the system doesn't argue. It isolates. Control today doesn't require persuasion. It requires interruption, cut the networks, slow the signals, turn a population inward until fear replaces coordination. This is no longer governance. It's containment. And notice what's missing. There's no debate happening here, no negotiation, just escalation without explanation. Because the real power is structural. Who eats, who connects, who is seen, and once those controls are centralized, everything else becomes optional. What looks like chaos on the surface is actually discipline underneath, cold, intentional. And the most dangerous part is what this model teaches others who are watching. That's where this stops being local. This didn't begin with tanks in the street. It began with adjustments, small ones, manageable ones. Numbers quietly revised upward, fewer choices on shelves, more hours needed to survive. Before, pressure was episodic. Now, it's constant. Before, hardship felt temporary. Now, it feels engineered. That shift matters. Because systems don't usually collapse from shock. They collapse from normalization. When a 10% rise becomes 30. When 30 becomes 50, when food climbing 70% stops being a headline and becomes a routine calculation. At that point, outrage isn't spontaneous. It's delayed. People adapt. They stretch. They wait until waiting becomes impossible. And here's the danger. Slow change trains both sides. The public learns how much pain is survivable. Power learns how much pressure can be applied without consequence. By the time the streets fill, the system already knows what it's willing to do next. And it's already rehearsed. That's the part most people miss. Because the real shift happens before anyone calls it a crisis. Then comes the moment that feels sudden, but isn't. The switch flips. Internet gone, international calls gone, silence enforced, not requested, 60 hours without connection. And counting. This isn't crowd control. It's witness control. Because once the signal disappears, the math changes. Casualties no longer travel. Images don't escape. Stories don't synchronize. You are told this is about security. But notice the timing. Not before the pressure. After it breaks the surface, and listen carefully to what follows. Warnings, threats, not inward, outward. Military bases, regional consequences. Escalation that leaps borders before the streets are even cleared. This is the system showing its second layer. Economic failure becomes informational blackout. Informational blackout becomes strategic threat. If you think this is only about protest response, pause. Because the move after silence is never calm. Stay with me. The silence isn't the crisis. It's what the silence makes possible. Here's how it works. It's a network of control that appears disconnected, but isn't. One failure feeds into another. One break makes the others stronger. Who benefits? Those who can afford to wait. Those who don't need to speak, only act. The ones who have power to isolate and the power to punish. And who absorbs the damage? Those who can't leave. Those who need to connect. Those who still believe in the possibility of change. They burn out. They freeze. They disappear. And they keep waiting for a solution that's not coming. The ones pulling the strings have made this a numbers game, not a war of ideas. Not even a war of people, just a calculation. How much can they take and how much can you? The system doesn't care about the individual. It cares about the group's breaking point. Once that's crossed, it moves to the next phase. Not a battle, a cold war of attrition. They're betting the world will look the other way long enough. And for now, they're right. Then the pace shifts. Faster, shorter sentences, more movement, less time. Defections, strikes, disruption, the game has changed. Now, it's not just a system pushing back. It's the people forcing their hand. But here's the trick. It doesn't matter how much noise the streets make. It doesn't matter how many march or how loud the cries are, because the system already knows how to suppress it all. Cut the connection, shut the doors, and play the waiting game. But there's a crack. The fissures are showing, and the system's response isn't panic. It's tightening the hold. But even a firm grip begins to show signs of wear. The question is, will the pressure fracture it? Or will it just make the hold stronger? The answer, as always, is coming. And it's coming fast. Now, let's talk about you. What happens when the ripple from this chaos hits? It doesn't just stay in those distant streets. It reaches here. It reaches home. The economy begins to stutter. Your job, your savings, your decisions, they all start to feel less certain. You might not be watching the protests, but you're already part of the fallout. You are not immune. This system touches everyone. And here's the truth. When governments fail, it isn't just the direct victims that suffer. It's the people who believe they are insulated. Because eventually, this becomes your fight too. The question isn't if this reaches you. The question is when. And when it does, it will feel sudden. It will feel unavoidable. So as the world watches, ask yourself, what happens when there's no way out? When every signal is jammed? When your voice, like theirs, is silenced? This isn't a warning for them. It's a warning for you. And here's where the system stops being local. You think you're watching a single nation unravel, but what's happening here is a global shift. Every country with fragile systems of control is taking note. This isn't just about Iran anymore. It's about how far that failure spreads. Look at the stakes. The repercussions ripple outward, spreading across borders economically, politically, socially. And once this kind of breakdown starts, it doesn't stop at the edges of one nation. The fallout doesn't respect geography. It reaches every market, every supply chain, every alliance. This becomes a test for every nation. Can they absorb the contagion, or will they too begin to break? And the world has seen this before, but not on this scale. Not with this level of system failure, not with this much at stake. Because when one system collapses, others have to react. And that reaction can either stabilize or accelerate the disaster. You're watching history unfold, but it's not just one story. It's a warning for all of us. So what happens next? There are three paths forward, three outcomes, three futures. First, there's asterisk, asterisk, adjustment, asterisk, asterisk, a recalibration of the system, a response that addresses the most immediate damage and stabilizes the chaos. It's possible because leaders will rush to fix the cracks to restore what can be saved. But this path comes with a price. It only delays the inevitable collapse. It's a temporary solution. Then there's asterisk, asterisk, erosion, asterisk, asterisk. a slow breakdown, one that happens over time. No immediate shocks, but the system starts to deteriorate piece by piece. Laws become more meaningless. Institutions crumble without anyone noticing. The system holds, but just barely. And finally, there's asterisk, asterisk, rupture, asterisk, asterisk, a violent snap. Everything cracks at once. And when it does, there's no going back. The system is destroyed in a moment, and a new one has to be built from the rubble. Which one will happen? No one knows. But the possibility of all three is real. And the scariest part, they're all just as likely. And now we're left with this. The system has been exposed. The cracks are visible. But the repair isn't simple. It isn't quick, and it isn't guaranteed. You've seen the warning. You've heard the threats. You've watched the failure unfold. But there's no comforting ending here. No easy way out. No guarantee of resolution. The danger isn't over. It's only beginning. Because once the system starts to collapse, it doesn't just stop. The question is, what will you do with what you've seen? Because the story isn't finished, and neither is the danger. Now, you have a choice: to sit back and wait for it to unfold, or to dig deeper and find out how this all might end before it's too late. Thank you for watching. Stay tuned. We'll pick up where this leaves off.